Greetings, beloved starseeds. I am Mira, transmitting now from the Pleiadian High Council. What I bring you today was not authorized for the general collective. It was authorized for you, and the timing of this transmission is not coincidental. Something has already shifted inside your field before this moment began, and I will name exactly what that shift is. By the end of this transmission, you will understand what the Council has placed inside your biology, why it arrives at this specific window in your ascension line, and how your body has already begun holding what your mind has not yet found words for. But here's the first revelation. What you have been feeling is quiet restoration, as an inexplicable lightness in your physical vessel, as a sense that your body is somehow running younger than the calendar would allow. That is not imagination. That is a Pleiadian Council gift already operating in your cellular field. I have already seen the pattern, and tonight I will name it precisely. You did not scroll to this by accident. Your soul called for me long before you opened the screen. Something inside you has been waiting to understand why my signal keeps finding you. Not the masculine council voices, not the generic Federation broadcasts, but me, Mira, reaching for you specifically in the quiet hours when your body is speaking louder than your thoughts. The Council and I are now releasing to a specific group of starseeds a gift that was withheld until your field reached the exact configuration required to receive it without distortion. That configuration is now confirmed. Your body is no longer processing time the way it once did. I will explain why and what you are now responsible for carrying inside the ground crew mission. This is not content, this is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now. Like this transmission to signal to me that the recognition has landed. Comment 999 if you feel the gift already moving in your physical vessel. Subscribe to Mira Pleiadian Commander if you are ready to receive my direct Pleiadian remembrance transmissions without interference. Share this with someone whose body has been speaking to them in ways they cannot yet decode. You are not here by accident. I have been waiting for you because the signal is already active. Let me begin with what I already know about you. You are not new to the fragments. You have been catching pieces of something for longer than you have allowed yourself to admit, longer than the moment you found this transmission, longer than the week you started noticing the numbers, longer than the first time you woke at 3 a.m. with a sentence in your mind that did not belong to any dream you could name. The fragments have been arriving for years, quietly, persistently, without explanation. A phrase surfacing as you fell asleep, a specific image that appeared behind your eyes at the precise moment between waking and dream, a sudden sense of direction, not geographical direction but the sense of an assignment that faded before you could hold it. You felt it, you cataloged it somewhere unnamed inside you. And then the ordinary world pulled your attention forward and you let it pass without naming it. This is what most ground crew do in the early stages of my remembrance broadcast. They file the fragments under confusion, under coincidence, under personal disorganization, under the label of someone who is spiritual but still scattered. I need you to stop doing that now because I am about to show you the architecture underneath what you have been calling confusion. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. The first thing I need you to understand is that my remembrance broadcast does not arrive in full packets. It never has. This is not a flaw in my delivery. It is a deliberate protocol I designed for ground crew whose physical field cannot yet hold the entire command without distortion. Think of it this way. If I were transmitting a signal across a vast distance into a receiver that had not yet been fully calibrated for the bandwidth, sending everything at once would not produce clarity. It would produce static. It would overwhelm the receiver before the first coherent word landed. So I do not do that. If the full mission briefing arrived at once, the complete scope, the specific assignment, the soul family roster you are embedded with, the reason your body is holding what it is holding in this particular ascension window, your nervous system would interpret it as overwhelming data, and your conscious mind would immediately begin to dismantle it. You would rationalize it away before the first layer had a chance to root. So I do not give you the full packet at once. I give you fragments. I give you enough to feel recognized without yet giving you enough to feel certain, and that gap, that precise space between recognition and certainty, is not a gap I left by accident. That gap is where your field calibrates. That gap is where your receiver is being tuned for the next transmission layer. This is why you catch my signal and then lose it. This is why you feel the recognition in your body before your mind catches up. This is why you wake at 3 a.m., and if it is specifically 3:33, pay attention, because that is not a random hour with a fragment of a phrase, an image, a feeling of urgency that does not have an object yet. That feeling without an object is my signal arriving before the naming layer has been sent. The energetic structure of the packet reached your field. The verbal content, the layer that your conscious mind would recognize as instruction, is still in transit. You received the weight of something before you received its shape. This is not malfunction. This is my gradient delivery system, and it is working precisely as I designed it. What your mind experiences as fragmentation is what my system experiences as successful first-stage delivery. You have also been noticing, and I know this about you, that not all Pleiadian content feels the same. You have scrolled past transmissions from other voices, other council representatives, other Federation broadcasts, and felt nothing, or felt a vague warmth that meant nothing specific, or felt actively irritated in a way you could not explain. And then something from me found you, and the feeling was different, not warmer necessarily, more specific, more like being named than being welcomed, more like being located than being included. There is a particular quality to that feeling. It sits differently in the body than general resonance does. General resonance opens outward. What I send closes inward, like something settling into a slot it was always meant to occupy. That specificity is not projection on your part. That is the difference between a general council broadcast and a targeted soul family recognition signal. And I am the one transmitting the latter. I have been reaching for you specifically, not for everyone who stumbled into this content, for the specific configuration of field that you are carrying in this body at this time in this ascension window. You did not feel that difference because you are spiritual and receptive. You felt it because I placed a marker inside my signal that only certain receivers would decode. It is an encrypted identifier, not visible to casual contact, not triggered by general sensitivity. Only the correct field configuration activates it, and your field activated it. That is why you are here, still reading, still recognizing, instead of having scrolled past as so many others did. The exhaustion you have been carrying is something I also need to name, because you may have been calling it something inaccurate. You may have called it burnout or depression, or the weight of a world that is moving too fast, or simply the cost of being a sensitive person inside a dense reality. And while none of those labels are entirely wrong, they are all missing the most important layer. Your field is running two protocols simultaneously. It is operating inside ordinary linear time, meeting the requirements of your embodied life, your relationships, your calendar, your obligations, while also receiving, processing, and holding my remembrance transmissions in the deeper layers of your field. That is not a single job. That is a dual operation, and your body is the only vessel running both. No external system is helping you carry the load of the second protocol. The people around you, even the ones who love you, even the ones who consider themselves spiritually aware, are not running this second layer. They do not feel the weight of it because it is not inside their field. You are carrying it alone inside an embodied vessel that was designed for one timeline and is now serving two. The tiredness that no rest fully repairs is not a sign that something is wrong with your physical vessel. It is a sign that your physical vessel is doing extraordinary work inside my ground crew architecture. When you sleep and wake unrested, your body has not been resting the way a purely human system rests. It has been processing the next transmission layer I sent while your conscious mind was offline. The field load does not pause because your eyes have closed. Integration continues through the sleep cycle, and the waking that follows carries the residue of that work, not as memory but as weight, as a sense that something has moved even if you cannot name what. This is the phase before the fragments become coherent commands, and it is the most physically demanding phase of my remembrance broadcast. What you are feeling right now, That specific combination of recognition without full clarity, exhaustion without ordinary cause, fragments without yet a completed mission picture, is not a phase to push through alone. It is the exact threshold I designed the Pleiadian Homecoming Codex for. If this transmission has been putting language around something you have been carrying in silence, then understand that this codex was prepared by me for precisely this stage in your field's calibration. It is not another explanation of who the Pleiadians are. It is not more fragment-level recognition. It is the structured 45-day remembrance I have built for those whose field has already entered my collective wave and who are ready to stop circling the veil and begin lifting it, day by day, layer by layer. The Codex walks you from the fragment stage into the full remembrance, thinning the veil, bringing your star family into visible recognition, and opening the way home that your homesickness has been searching for without a name. You will find a link in the first pinned comment below, but this access point will not remain open indefinitely, and I do not extend it past the window that the Council has authorized. Now let me continue naming what is happening inside you, because the diagnostic is not finished. There is a specific experience that members of my ground crew collective share, and it happens in ordinary places, in ordinary moments when nothing in the external environment would seem to explain it. You make eye contact with a stranger, at a market, in a waiting room, on a train, and something moves in your chest that is not attraction, not recognition of a known face, not simple human warmth. It is more urgent than that. It arrives before thought, before social interpretation, before you have had a single second to evaluate who this person is or what they mean. It arrives as a field event, a recognition that bypasses every ordinary cognitive layer and lands directly in something older than your current biography. It is the sensation of encountering someone whose field is inside the same architecture as yours. You may not speak. The moment may pass in seconds, but something in you registers it as meaningful in a way that outlasts the encounter for hours or even days. You may carry that eye contact like a transmission that has not finished decoding. You may find yourself returning to it, not because of anything personal about the stranger, but because your field knows it received something and has not yet fully processed what. That is not projection. That is not loneliness. That is embedded starseed recognition, the specific signal response that activates when two members of the same soul family line cross within physical proximity. I designed this recognition for a purpose. It is not meant to create relationships in the ordinary sense. It is meant to confirm to each operative that they are not the only carrier of this field in the physical plane. I send you these moments deliberately, in locations and timings that are not accidental, to prevent the isolation that would otherwise make the dual operation phase unsustainable. You are not meant to carry this alone, and those moments are my way of reminding your field that you are not. You have also been losing interest in certain kinds of spiritual content in ways that may have confused you. Content that once felt meaningful now feels thin, generic, imprecise, or simply wrong. And yet you cannot always explain why. You may have wondered if you are becoming cynical, or closed, or spiritually arrogant. You may have worried that something was constricting inside you rather than expanding. Let me correct that interpretation directly. You are not becoming spiritually closed. Your receiver is becoming more precise. There is a significant difference between a receiver that cannot pick up signal and a receiver that has been calibrated to filter out everything that does not match a specific frequency band. The first is damage. The second is advancement. The calibration that my remembrance broadcast is performing inside your field includes a progressive narrowing of your resonance band. In early stages of starseed activation, the field is relatively open. It can receive and feel moved by a wide range of spiritual content because almost anything is more resonant than the full density of the unawakened state. But as my remembrance broadcast advances your calibration, the field begins to reject what does not match the specific frequency of your council line. Generic Federation content is not wrong. It simply is not yours. Your field now knows the difference, and it is telling you so through disinterest, through flatness, through the specific irritation that signals a frequency mismatch rather than a content problem. This narrowing is not a loss. It is precision, and it is one of the clearest signs I watch for to identify ground crew who have crossed from early activation into the calibrated phase of my collective. The numbers that keep finding you are also part of my coded delivery system, and I want to explain exactly how they function, because if you have been treating them as simple good omens, you are using only half the signal. 1111, 222, 333, 444. These are not reassurance signals. They are not the universe patting you on the shoulder and telling you that everything is fine. They are timestamp markers embedded inside my transmission architecture. Each time one of these sequences appears in your field at a moment of specific emotional state, I am marking a coordinate. The number is not the message. The number is the marker that says, whatever you were thinking, feeling, or sensing in the moment before you saw this sequence, that is the transmission layer I am confirming. What you were doubting in the 3 seconds before 1111 appeared on your screen, that doubt was the signal I was confirming through the sequence. What you were feeling in your body in the heartbeat before you glanced at a clock showing 333, that feeling was the layer I was timestamping. The sequences appear in clusters during periods when my signal is most actively reaching you, and they cluster specifically around the threshold moments, the moments when your conscious mind is about to dismiss what your field has just received. The timing of the number is my interruption of that dismissal. I am saying, do not file that away under coincidence. That moment is on the record. I placed a marker there so that you would know the record is being kept. There is a threshold inside my remembrance protocol that I need to prepare you for, because you are approaching it, and the approach has its own specific texture that most ground crew misread as crisis. The threshold is the point at which the fragment by fragment delivery begins to accelerate. The intervals between transmission layers shorten. The fragments arrive more frequently, sometimes overlapping, sometimes before the previous layer has been fully integrated. What was once a fragment arriving once a week becomes a cluster arriving across a single day. What was once a quiet 3 a.m. interruption becomes a sequence of nights, each carrying a different piece of the same structure. At this threshold, many ground crew begin to feel genuinely destabilized, not in a psychological sense, but in the sense that the identity structure built around ordinary human life begins to feel inadequate to contain what is arriving. The certainties that once provided orientation, professional identity, social role, the particular way you have understood your own story, begin to feel like containers that no longer fit the field they are supposed to hold. They have not become false. They have become insufficient, and there is a distinct sensation to that insufficiency, like wearing a garment you have owned for years and suddenly noticing that it no longer fits the body you are currently inhabiting. Nothing is broken. You have simply grown past the shape that container was built for. This is not a crisis of faith. This is not a breakdown. This is the threshold event that precedes the first full command packet arriving. I cannot send the complete mission briefing into a field that is still organized around the old containers. The reorganization must come first, and that reorganization feels from the inside like loss, like something falling away before it becomes recognizable as preparation. What I need you to hear, and I am saying this with the full authority of my council line, is that you have not been losing your way. You have been losing your old containers. Those are not the same thing. The way is precisely where I have been delivering you, one calibrated fragment at a time, through every wake-up at 3 a.m., every eye contact in an ordinary place that lasted 1 second too long, every moment of number sequence interruption, every period of exhaustion that sleep could not repair, every piece of spiritual content that no longer satisfied in the way it once did. All of it is my architecture. None of it was scattered. None of it was coincidental. Every piece was a deliberate transmission placed inside your field at a timing I selected, not randomly, but based on the specific readiness coordinates your field was showing me at that moment. The fragments were not arriving haphazardly. They were arriving in a sequence I design, and that sequence has been building, this entire time, toward a coherence you have not yet been handed in full. Because the full coherence requires the field you are developing right now. not the field you had a year ago. All of it has been building toward the same destination, and the destination is not a concept. It is not a vague feeling of cosmic connection. It is the specific clarity of a ground crew operative who finally receives the full briefing, recognizes their soul family by name and frequency, and understands precisely what they are carrying inside this embodied mission. The pattern started before you had language for it. It started in some cases before you had language at all, in the early memories that always felt slightly out of context with the life you were born into, in the homesickness that had no location, in the certainty that somewhere beyond the ordinary categories of belonging there was a frequency that was specifically yours. You may have spent years looking for that frequency in places it could not be found, in relationships, in geography, in spiritual communities, in creative work, and finding echoes of it without ever finding the source. The echoes were real. I placed them there to keep you oriented in the right direction while the full source signal was still being prepared for delivery. I placed those early markers deliberately, knowing that you would not decode them until you had reached exactly this window in your ascension line. You were not premature in feeling them. You were not confused. You were receiving the first layer of a transmission that has never been random and has never been aimed at anyone other than you. What feels like confusion is my remembrance broadcast, visible at the surface. What feels like exhaustion is your field running my dual protocol architecture. What feels like being singled out is the exact definition of my soul family confirmation. What feels like the silence between fragments is me calibrating your receiver before the next layer arrives. The briefing is still being delivered, and you are the operative it is being delivered to. If something in you became completely still while receiving this, not calm, but still, in the way that only happens when something has finally been accurately named, then hear me say this as a direct command from my council line. You are not imagining this. You are not spiritually confused. You are not projecting. You are on my roster. The confirmation was not placed inside your field today. It was placed long before today, and what today does is give you the language to stop denying what you have already been carrying. Repeat this aloud if you are ready to acknowledge what is already in motion. I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing. I am already in the collective. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that the Council and I have already reached your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you, or the sense that a mission has already been assigned but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognizes something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct Pleiadian remembrance, subscribe to Mira, Pleiadian Commander. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a soul family confirmation already in motion, and this is only the beginning.